Hey, welcome back to the channel. So as you may know, I have the LUMIX S9, and I love that little camera to death. And I've been using it for a while now, and really it's been a joy to use. But again, I got that camera for fairly cheap and kind of realized the limitations that it had. And because I got it for so cheap, I was willing to accept those limitations in the camera. Naturally, when the new LUMIX camera, the S1R2 and the S1 Mark II came out, I was really interested in those cameras. And I've been doing a lot of research into those cameras, and I wanted to kind of share what I found to some of those out there that may be interested in maybe a reason to give a little bit of pause before you go spending that much money. I'm not saying the camera's not great, I'm not saying it's not awesome, but some of the things that make a difference to me may make a difference to you, and just thought I would share those with you. Really what I want to do is I want to create content. I want to focus my whole thing on sports shooting. That's really what I want to do. Yes, I like to take senior photos and I like to take portraits and all that type of stuff, but in the end it really just doesn't interest me that much. It's really just to get my foot in the door and help get my name out there a little bit. Really what I want to do is sports shooting. Why sports shooting? Because I don't want to have to pose people. I like catching the action as it goes. I don't have to worry about posing people. I don't have to worry about all this editing and stuff. I just capture the action. And I don't know that the S1R2 or the S12 are going to be much of a photo sports camera, and I'll tell you why. Now I know that the S1 Mark II has 70 frames per second, but the buffer fills up extremely fast and it takes a long time to clear. That's going to be an issue. And then the S1R Mark II, I think only goes to 10 frames a second. I don't know the complete specs of the cameras, but anyway, that's kind of what I see right there. You're stuck at 10 frames per second, or you're doing 70 frames per second, but the buffer takes forever to fill up. Okay, that's one issue with it. Another issue with it is autofocus. Okay, now I've used the S9, and the autofocus for what I've been using has been great, and by all accounts the autofocus is great on those two cameras as well. However, when you get to tracking, that's when things start to get a little tricky. Now with the newer Sony cameras, the one with AI chips, you can activate the tracking without touching the screen, without interacting with the screen, which means that I can have the camera up to my eye and activate tracking with a button, and it'll track whatever subject I want until I release the button or tell it to stop tracking. That's a huge feature. With the Panasonic, I believe you had to, it takes a couple of button pushes to get to that tracking mode. By that time, it's too late. So that could be an issue, the tracking. Now the face and eye tracking on the Panasonic is great. However, when you go shoot a sport, maybe like football or something, you really don't get to look at the eye. There's no eye to catch. So you want to be able to use tracking when you're shooting those subjects, both photo and video. So that's one consideration for me why I'm just like, I don't know if this is the right camera for me. Another thing for me is flash photography. I've been doing that a lot lately. I enjoy doing flash photography way more than natural light. Anyway, on the Sony cameras, you have a setting on there where you can hit a button and it basically turns off the flash so you can see your ambient exposure without having to turn off the flash and turn it back on, all that stuff that you used to have to do. That's a huge plus if you're doing flash photography. When I'm doing flash photography, I'm always using that setting, and I'm always going back and forth between my ambient and my flash settings to see what I have going on, and I don't believe that LUMIX offers that in either of those cameras. So if you're into flash photography, you may think about that. And the last and most important thing, at least for me, and something that I need that is going to have to be investigated further, because it's just now, the camera has just now come out, is overheating. All the early YouTube reviews, they all say that it doesn't overheat, and it probably is a camera that you don't have to worry about overheating just a whole lot. However, now that the camera is out in the public, I'm starting to see more and more reports of overheating, specifically when you're recording to the SD card and the CF Express Top B card. That's an issue, because when I'm out doing stuff, I want to be simultaneously recording. I don't want to be recording just the one. Now, if I'm out doing something for YouTube, that's a little bit different. For me personally, I don't care. One card is fine. But if I'm out doing something professionally, it has to be dual recorded at the same time. And I'm seeing where people are dual recording and using some of the higher video functions, their cameras are overheating fairly quickly. Overheating is so subjective. It really does depend on how you use your camera and everything. You see people on YouTube and they say it doesn't overheat. It doesn't overheat, it's bulletproof, blah, 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 all this. And you get on Reddit and start kind of investigating a little bit farther. And the people on those type of sites are LUMIX fanboys who got the camera in are starting to discover this overheating problem. Now, I'm sure that the camera can shoot, 4K, 2430, and probably even 60, just standard modes, and not have any overheating issues. The problem when you get into the open gate mode, 6K and 5 point whatever K, you're dual recording, and all of a sudden you start getting overheat warnings. Well, that to me negates the whole purpose of the camera. What I really am interested in the camera is the 6K open gate modes, and that's what I would be using it for. And if the camera is going to overheat in those modes, and there's no reason for me to really have it, to be honest with you, because I can just use any of the cameras that I already currently have if I just want to do 4K 30, 4K 60, and regular 16:9. You start talking about a list of compromises. The list of compromises can be much wider on a camera that you don't pay as much for. You get into a $3,200, $3,300 camera, that list of compromises has to shrink. It has to be pretty small before you start, purchasing a camera and accepting those compromises. $3,200, $3,500. There better not be very many compromises at all, at least in my opinion. And the camera better be pretty rock solid. That's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. I don't know. Just some things to think about. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one.